Britain's prisons are being overrun by Islamist gangs. Failure to tackle these issues could spark race riots inside. He called it a national security threat.
Radical Islamist violence is rising inside UK prisons, and the people meant to keep order are losing their grip. Extremist gangs are seizing power on the wings, and it's happening while the government looks the other way. I'm Phil Campion, former UKSF, and this is the tactical truth. Now let's take a look at what's being said by the mainstream maniacs.
Britain's prisons are being overrun by Islamist gangs. Self-styled Muslim Brotherhood leaders control wings in many high-security prisons.
Right, this isn't fallacy. I've seen this. I was remanded in custody in Winchester. I've been there myself, and I've seen young men, young white British men, for whatever reason, and normally it's to get more time out of their cell, praying 5 times a day, etc., being completely radicalised. It was a concern for me when I was in. I'm going to tell you that now.
And instead of isolating them, the system is protecting them, not officers or the public. That was Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, who has said that this week. Is this any surprise, given that the Muslim population has gone up in prisons over 30% in the last decade or so? And they have highlighted many times religious wars and conversions taking place across our prisons by some people holding extremist views.
Again, as I've said before, this isn't everybody, but it's a lot of people. And if the well-being of other inmates, staff, visitors, whoever is being compromised, then something needs to be done to stop it, doesn't it? That's just normal, isn't it? You were put in there in the first place because you were a danger to other people, to protect the general populace of this country. Well, there's also people that need to be protected from you while you're in there, and protected by whatever means it takes to do that, is what I'm saying.
It was revealed this week that HMP Franklin, our so-called most secure Category A prison, is a ticking time bomb. No pun intended, of course. The Times exposed that Islamist gangs are running the show there, forcing inmates who don't want to join their ranks into segregation units just to stay alive. By the way, I have no sympathy for those in those prisons, but there we are. The prison, one of the highest security jails in Britain, is said to have become overrun with Islamic gangs. That its terrorist separation centres, which were built in bid to stop the terrorists from radicalising others, have become totally defunct. Now, some prisoners are apparently being isolated to dodge death threats and attacks from Islamic extremists, though a prison service spokesman does deny that claim. Former prisoner Governor Ian Atkinson warns the Conservative Post that failure to tackle these issues could spark race riots inside.
It will. Something has to be done. You can't just let this sort of like thing roll and slide, and there's no sweeping it under the carpet. Action needs to be taken, and it needs to be taken as soon as it's identified, because it's cancerous. It grows, it swells, and it swells at a rate of knots, a proper rapid rate of knots. It really does.
He called it a national security threat. But more shocking still, Robert Jenrick went on to expose that our morally bankrupt bureaucracy is slowing action by tying up prisons in red tape. Jenrick said the court forced prison authorities to treat a known propagandist as if his extremism were just a theory. Governor,
you can't do that. You can't do that.
Now have to build case files for individual self-styled emirs as if they're on trial all over again. And in my opinion, de-radicalisation in our prisons isn't just failing, it's a complete and utter farce. A 2020 House of Lords report questioned the effectiveness of these programs, and still to this day, nothing has changed.
It needs to change, doesn't it? It needs to change. What is the point in having all these investigations, in all this stuff coming to light, if nothing's being done about it? Because as I said before, the problem just escalates and gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Islamist gangs, if you want to put it like that, Muslim majority gangs, where evidence was given to me in my review, where Qurans were put on the bed of incoming inmates with the very clear indication, convert or get hurt.
In a sort of like an inner city jail, like in London or Birmingham, yes, that it would be prevalent, that it probably is and the majority are Muslim gangs, and that's just natural.
Natural? That's a natural thing, is it? I must be reading that wrong. I've got to be reading that wrong, innit?
The case now. I mean, Hashem Abedi. But I find the whole, the Abedi family, I want to broaden it out a bit. This Abedi family came over here as asylum seekers. You've got at least 2 terrorist masterminds there. I think it's fair enough to say that the parents are quivering on the edge of at least being terrorist sympathisers. You've also got a brother who's just done one and we've managed to leave the country. I mean, is this the worst case of asylum seekers ever in Britain, do you?
Absolutely. And, you know, the terrorists in our jails now, we're building these very special separation units for them where they have these self-cook kitchens. They're getting the most absurd privileges. They're living with each other. I think there's 10 per unit. So it's almost like they're in a little self-catering holiday, really. They're wandering around cooking for themselves, having fun together. And this guy, you see...
It's not a deterrent, is it? I've said this before with anything. If there's no consequence for your action, you're almost going to encourage stuff, aren't you? You really are.
Any film of them.
And these people ain't bothered. They're not bothered slightly. So whatever they're doing to combat the problem that is clearly there, it's not working. So they need to get hard. They need to get tough. They need to actually punish people.
Smiling, whatever. You know, this is not what if you were a terrorist, you should be in solitary confinement 23 hours a day. The problem is we have a prison minister who doesn't think anyone should be in jail. We have a justice system that gives preferential treatment to ethnic minorities. We have a government that the minute you say the word Islam or Muslim, they start quivering and they start to try and appease them. We have prison governors who are actually frightened of Islamist terrorists. The bloke in charge of this one, who's called Darren Finley, he should be fired immediately. He must have known what was going on in that separation unit. He knew that were some of the most dangerous criminals in the country, and yet he had them just living on their own.
This Abedi thing is insane. It's incredible. You know, he needs to go into, you know, the Americans would call it a shoe, wouldn't they? You know what I mean? He needs to go in the hole. He needs to be locked up inequitably for as long as possible. If not, you know, I've got other solutions to that problem, but we don't do that in this country anymore, all right? It's incredible that they'd have someone have so much influence who is so dangerous. It's just insane. It's not even the emperor's clothes. It's worse. I'd love to know what you're thinking. So look, get below, that's right, down there, leave them in the comments, because I want to see it. And I might even read a few out. We've just seen what the press are saying. But look, this is what we're saying, right? We're not running our prisons anymore. The inmates are. And some of the most dangerous ones, radical Islamist terrorists, have turned them into recruiting grounds. And I've seen this firsthand in Winchester. Intimidation zones and ideological strongholds. Hashem Abedi, the man behind the Manchester arena bombing, well, he boiled oil and stabbed 3 officers, not in some chaotic riot, in a secure separation centre designed to keep extremists contained. Why did he have a kitchen? Why were the staff unarmed? Why do Islamist gangs control wings while officers fear for their lives? Because no one at the top has the spine to say what's obvious. These extremists are not just inmates, they're operators. They convert, threaten, and dominate other prisoners. And when guards resist, they're silenced with the worst word in British bureaucracy: racist. Let's not forget history. During the Troubles, we had the H-blocks. Remember them? Political prisoners, Protestant and Catholic, ran their own zones. The Maze prison became a symbol of religious war inside concrete walls. Today, it's not orange versus green. It's extremist versus state. Islamist, not sectarianism, is the power running the blocks. And the worst part? Everybody knows it. Governors, unions, ministers, but they're too busy treading on eggshells to appease people. And here's the next problem. If they're treating prison like it's a battlefield, how exactly do we expect them to reintegrate into British society? Not going to happen, is it? What kind of brainwashing is happening behind those doors? What mindset are they walking out with? Because it sure as hell isn't British values, I can tell you that. They're not coming out reformed. They're coming out radicalised, bitter, and more dangerous than when they went in. I've seen it. I've honestly seen it in Winchester. We don't need more reviews. We need action. Tasers, body armour, full search rights, no religious exceptions. And one simple rule. If you attack a guard, you lose every privilege you've got. No kitchen, no prayer rugs, no influence. This isn't about religion, it's about control. And right now, we've lost it. And if you want to hear the conversations we can't discuss openly, join our membership for just 16 pence a day on ForceTV Plus on YouTube. Until next time, I'll see you then.